I want to have a child of my own. But I don't want a man. So I lured that well-behaved and obedient little blind man. After getting pregnant, I secretly dumped him. I lied to him, saying, "When you come out of the operating room, you will be able to see me." Later, the rumored cold-blooded and ruthless president of the Lee Corporation blocked my doorstep. He said gloomily, "Vivian, it has been more than 3 months since I came out of the operating room. Why haven't you shown up yet? Congratulations. You're pregnant." Hearing this news, the corners of my mouth almost reached my ears with joy. After trying so hard for so long, there were finally results. Putting away the test report, I happily walked home. I always think that men in this world are unreliable. But I don't want to come and go all alone. So I want to create a bond for myself and have a child of my own. I want to take him to see all the sceneries in the world, and give him all my love and bond. At the thought of having a little life in my belly, a child related to me by blood, my steps became a bit more brisk. As soon as I got home, I smelled the aroma of food, which made my stomach crumble with hunger. Although Jason couldn't see, his ears were very good. Hearing the noise at the door, he immediately groped his way to the door. "Vivian, you're back." "Yes." He habitually leaned in to hug me, but I was afraid that he might accidentally hurt the child because he couldn't control his strength. I quickly pushed him away. "I've been out all day and smell bad. I'll take a bath and change my clothes first." "Okay." When passing by the dining table, I saw a table full of delicious food, all of which I liked. Since Jason couldn't see, he surely didn't cook it. I casually asked, "Did you order takeout?" Great. I'll be quick." "Okay." Jason was picked up by me. Although it's best not to pick up men casually these days. He was extremely good-looking. On that rainy night, on my way home, I passed it Arcali and vaguely heard the faint groans of pain coming from inside. Inexplicably, I went over to take a look. It was Jason. At that time, he was covered in wounds, huddled in the muddy dirt and struggling in pain. But even in such a mess, I still noticed his extremely beautiful face at first sight. Originally, I just wanted to be Lei Feng once and save someone's life. Just as I was about to call the police and an ambulance, he grabbed my wrist. The vulnerability and helplessness on that pale and handsome face hit my heart hard. "Don't call the police. Please. Save me. I can repay you. Please. Save me. I'm not a nosy person usually, but I'm a big-time face control. Such a wounded beauty should be harmless. Right?" So, I took him home. All of his other wounds gradually healed, but his eyes remained blind. At first, Jason couldn't accept the fact that he was blind and was deeply immersed in a strong self-loathing mood. He locked himself in a small corner of the guest room all day long, didn't answer when asked, and didn't eat when given food. Like a hopeless dead log waiting quietly for death. I just wanted to be Lei Feng occasionally and didn't plan to take on the responsibility of taking care of a strange man, let alone really pick up a beautiful future corpse and bring it home. So, I scolded Jason severely. "If you don't want to live, get out of here right now. Lie down on the road and you'll be in heaven immediately. Don't dirty my place." "Who are you showing this sad look to? The people who hurt you are still at large. But you are here wallowing in self-loathing. Are you worthy of your parents and family? Are you worthy of those who love you? Who was it that begged me to save you at the beginning? Who was it that said they would repay me?" "Jason, be a man and live like one. If you remain so depressed, I'll throw you out. My house doesn't accept trash." Since then, I don't know whether he suddenly came to his senses or was woken up by my scolding. But he actually came to life again. He began to take the initiative to talk to me, and hoped that I could give him a mobile phone and a computer. He didn't want to be a useless waste. He would take the initiative to get familiar with the layout of the house. Although he couldn't avoid bumps and knocks, he began to come out and feel the surroundings. That day, I was shocked to see him typing rapidly on the computer. Couldn't he see? Jason's eyes were dull and his face was calm. I'm familiar with the position of every letter and every symbol on the keyboard. And there are also voice prompts for other needs. In just 1 month, he quickly adapted to everything around him. His life at my home was no different from that of a normal person. He could even clean the house and order takeout. Admittedly, this person's learning ability is really strong. I watched Jason's various behaviors coldly and increasingly thought that he was a good sperm bank. First of all, Jason's appearance was impeccable. If he didn't have such an extremely handsome appearance, I wouldn't have brought him home. Secondly, his habits were very good. He had no bad habits like smoking or drinking. Even in the most painful time, he just silently stared blankly. Moreover, he also worked out. Although he couldn't see, he would get up early to exercise every day, making the best use of the treadmill that I had left unused for 2 years. Finally, and most importantly, he was really smart. He learned everything very quickly, and his thinking was active and his logic was meticulous. I had some work-related problems before and casually chatted with him. The personal opinions and solutions he gave were very feasible. Although I don't know Jason's background, from the time we spent together, I can feel that he was an elite cultivated in a good family environment. I just don't know why he was in crisis. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that he can give me a child. A child that I've been longing for, and belongs only to me. After clarifying my goal, I started my surrogacy plan. I restrained my hot temper, and treated him gently and considerately. Taking advantage of his poor eyesight, I made physical contact with him, either intentionally or unintentionally. At the beginning, Jason was reserved and introverted. Even a simple touch of hands would make his face turn bright red. Until that night, when we were carried away by passion. Everything after that got out of control. Sometimes I don't even know whether I'm too deeply immersed in the act or I've truly fallen in love with him. After all, I've been quite happy during these days with him. Now that I've finally achieved my goal, it's time for our relationship to end. 3 After dinner, Jason familiarly put the dishes into the dishwasher, and then started to fumble around to wash the fruits. Although he had poor eyesight, after all, he had lived in this house for more than half a year, and his familiarity with it was no less than mine. I have my own career and work irregular hours. Usually, I just order takeout. It was only after being with Jason that I began to have a sense of living a normal life. I watched him carefully put away the dishes, arrange the washed fruits, and casually wipe the countertop. I have to admit that this man has a good sense of being a house husband. But men are unreliable, I said with a smile. Anyway, it's takeout. Why bother to take it out and arrange it on a plate? And it's a hassle to clean up later. Jason smiled and said, living a life should always have some sense of ceremony and a touch of earthly life. He slowly walked to me with the fruit plate and sat down. Habitually, he felt for my position and put a cherry on my lips. I opened my mouth and ate it. It was red, fresh, juicy, and quite sweet. Suddenly, Jason leaned over, gently bit my lips, and lingered, accompanied by the sweet and sour taste of the cherry, which was intoxicating. Is it sweet? Ah? It's very sweet. I have to admit that this man is indeed very attractive. My answer seemed to encourage Jason. He picked up another cherry, and came closer to be affectionate with me. Feeling the man's arm around my waist getting stronger, and his rapid breathing in my ear, I panicked a little. I need to take good care of myself in the first 3 months. I can't let my child be hurt. I pushed him away suddenly. Well, I can't. Vivian, don't you like me getting close to you? No. I'm just not feeling well today and don't want to. All right. Although Jason's eyes were dull, a loneliness on his face was clearly visible. I looked at the man quietly listening to the radio, feeling a bit speechless. Jason's personality was a bit aloof. Back then, in order to get pregnant, I had tried my best to seduce him. But it had only been half a year. The man who used to blush at a simple touch of hands had now, after having tasted the forbidden fruit, turned into a hungry wolf that could never be satisfied. Men are really fickle creatures. But now that I'm already pregnant, he's no longer useful. I straightened my clothes that had been ruffled by him, and my mind was full of thoughts on how to get rid of Jason. I don't know his past, nor do I know where his family is. Now that he's still blind, it would be too cruel to abandon him rashly. But I, Vivian, have known what I want since I was a child. I won't easily compromise because of a few words or a little kindness from others. I subconsciously touched my still flat belly. Once again, I silently emphasized to myself, it's time for me and this man to end. For Vivian. I think there's something strange with my eyes. How so? This morning when I woke up, I seemed to be able to see a blurry white light. But it wasn't clear. And then I couldn't see it again later. But if you can see, doesn't it mean there's hope for recovery? Maybe. I thought about it. This might be an opportunity. Well, tomorrow morning I'll take you to the hospital for an examination. Jason held my hand tightly. It's good to have an examination. If I can see, the first person I want to see is Vivian. Jason gently stroked my cheek affectionately, from my forehead to my nose, then to my lips, chin, and finally to my earlobe. Although his eyes were the same as before, still dull, I just felt that at that moment his eyes were full of deep affection. I secretly pinched my thigh. Vivian, don't be seduced by beauty. Having had it once is enough. All I want is the child. 5 early the next morning, I took Jason to the hospital for an examination. The examination results showed that this was indeed a sign before regaining sight. All Jason needed was a minor operation, and he could fully recover his vision. Knowing this news, I was truly happy from the bottom of my heart. If he could see, at least he would have better living abilities. So it wouldn't be such a big psychological burden for me to abandon him. Thinking about my escape plan again, it was simply perfect. Darling, when you come out of the operating room, you'll be able to see me. Great. Vivian, I've pictured your appearance thousands of times in my heart. I can finally see you with my own eyes. Jason hugged me tightly. His excitement and my inexplicable panic were intertwined. Being held in his warm embrace, I felt a little out of breath. I helped him go through the hospitalization procedures on the same day, made an appointment for the operation time, and took care of Jason patiently for several days. Sweet words and gentle behavior came easily to me. Anyway, it was the last time we would be together, so I might as well be nice to him. Until I saw him enter the operating room with my own eyes and watch the red-in operation light turn on, I silently said goodbye to Jason in my heart. Goodbye, Jason. Thank you for giving me a child. But between us, it ends here. Then, I resolutely turned around and left. 6. I booked a plane ticket to Xiangdao in advance for myself and flew there on the same day. In order to cut off the relationship as soon as possible, I sent a letter to Jason's mailbox, sincerely wishing him well and never seeing him again in this life. I also transferred a sum of money to him, which could be regarded as breakup fees. Finally, happily, I blocked all his contact information and happily started my pregnancy nurturing journey. Heartless people are always happier. On this point, what my mother said is really right. Xiangdao is a well-known health-preserving island, gathering many well-known sanatoriums and super hospitals at home and abroad. The whole island is surrounded by the sea, with a suitable temperature and sunny weather. It is simply a natural health-preserving paradise. I ordered myself a luxury health preservation package in the early pregnancy period. The 3 meals a day are arranged by special dietitians. There are regular full-body examinations every week, and there are also privately customized convalescence plans. Although I don't have a man by my side, as long as I have money, I can buy the best services and guarantees. In the first 3 months, my pregnancy reaction was quite severe. Fortunately, there are professional medical teams here. And the beautiful scenery is also healing. I had a very happy time. It was not until I passed the dangerous period of the first 3 months that I easily prepared to plan to go back. But all my good moods were interrupted by a call from my assistant. What? Increase the rent. Why? I have been cooperating with them for so long. Why would the rent suddenly increase? The little assistant was also very helpless. Sister Yun. I heard that their group headquarters has a new boss. The new boss is vigorous and resolute in doing things and acts ruthlessly. As soon as he took office, he removed all the old leaders' former subordinates cleanly and forcefully dispatched quite a few old-timers. Now everyone in the Lee group is in a state of self-preservation. It is said that a new official takes office with 3 fires. The previous fires of his were aimed at the inside of the group. Who knew that the last fire would burn on us? What about General Manager Zhang? Who often lie asses with us. Send money when it should be sent. And give gifts when it should be given. We can't be stingy at this time. I went there. The little assistant's voice was full of grievances. General Manager Zhang, who used to show 8 teeth when smiling from afar on weekdays, now turns around and runs away when he sees me. I comforted repeatedly. It's okay. Don't panic for now. I'll go back tomorrow. Because of this sudden change, I had to end my pregnancy nurturing journey in advance and return to high as high. After all, although I have money, I can't delay making my own money either. 7. The air in high is humid. And the air quality is not as good as that in Xiangdao. As soon as I got off the plane, I sneezed 3 times in a row. I always felt sticky and uncomfortable all over, as if being secretly watched by someone. And I felt very uneasy. Sister Yun, what's the matter? It's okay. Maybe I'm just a little unaccustomed just after getting off the plane. First, tell me about the company's affairs. I run several large supermarkets and rent commercial land from the Lee Group. Now that they suddenly increase the rent, it is undoubtedly an extra cost for us. And the cost is not low. I took the initiative to contact the previously liaison persons, but they all coldly and politely declined, which made me feel rather bewildered. We have been cooperating well all along. Why are we suddenly targeted? Could it be that I have offended someone? But I, Vivian, am not a woman who gives up easily. Since the source of the problem is the newly promoted president of the Lee Group, then I will visit him in person. After all, we have to fight before we know the result. We can't be timid at the very beginning. Early the next morning, I appeared in the lobby on the first floor of the Lee Group. The front desk lady politely declined me with a smile when she heard that I was looking for President Lee without an appointment. I have been declined so many times these days that I'm really a bit angry. Just as I was getting ready to find a roundabout way to get in by spending money to find someone I knew to take me in, a group of well-dressed business elites walked towards me. I took a closer look. Isn't the man in the front the little blind man I picked up? I stared at him intently. But that man didn't give me any glance from beginning to end, as if facing a stranger. Yes. He had never seen my original appearance in the first place. To him, I was originally a stranger. But why was my heart a little inexplicably restless? It was not until that group of people walked past with vigorous steps that I secretly asked the front desk lady. Who was the man walking in the front just now? He is President Lee of our group. Whom you are looking for? Me. The world is so small. Suddenly, I had some inexplicable emotions. If I had known that he was so rich, I should have extorted a large sum of money from him. I actually gave him money. What a big loss. 'Cause I was hesitating. I saw General Manager Zhang of the real estate department just passing by. I immediately made clear the purpose of this visit. I couldn't be disrupted by messy emotions. I resolutely rushed over to stop General Manager Zhang. This guy ran away quickly when he saw the little assistant. But when he saw me, he still had to show some respect. After all, in the 5 years since my supermarket was established, he has received no few kickbacks and benefits. General Manager Zhang's plump, round face was full of hesitation. General Manager Zhu, It's not that I don't want to help you. It's really that I'm of little influence. He pointed upwards and said in a low voice. Our group has undergone a major change in the past 2 months or so. A new boss is extremely ruthless. A real ruthless killer. I really can't afford to offend him. I'm just glad that I can keep my position for now. I could understand his difficulties. But understanding doesn't mean I should pay more money for no reason. Well, take me to see him. I'll negotiate with him. It has nothing to do with you. No matter what the result is, I have to strive for it as much as I can. This, that. Okay. For the sake of our past, money-related relationship. General Manager Zhang gritted his teeth, stamped his foot, and led me into the president's office. From a distance, I saw Jason, who was the focus of the crowd. General Manager Zhang introduced to me in a low voice. Our president Li studied abroad before. A few days ago, when the former president was ill, he took over the post in a time of crisis. This guy is tough. He has a dark face and an even darker heart. President Xu. Although you are a beautiful woman, quite a few young girls have been scolded to tears by him these days. Be careful yourself. I thought to myself, studied abroad? It sounds quite plausible. When he was huddled in the corner being withdrawn. Who knew who would scold whom? Here he comes. Here he comes. Suddenly, General Manager Zhang stood at attention, stepped back silently, and whispered, President Xu, we have worked together once. I'll take you this far. You. Take care. After that, he actually ran away with his short legs turning. Me. Men are really unreliable. At the critical moment, one still has to rely on oneself. I showed my 8 teeth, put on a standard smile, and strode forward. Hello, President Li. I'm the person in charge of Happy Home Supermarket. Sorry. Excuse me, Madame. Our President Li doesn't accept unappointed visits. I'll just take up 2 minutes of your time. Having come up here with great difficulty, I couldn't miss this opportunity. I pressed forward relentlessly. But the male assistant was tall and burly and blocked me firmly. In my eagerness to break through, I stumbled and hit the nearby decoration in my flustered steps. Seeing that I was about to fall, I subconsciously protected my lower abdomen, and my face turned pale with fright. At the critical moment, a broad and strong arm firmly grabbed me and then supported my waist. It was only when I finally stood still that a slight sigh came from above my head. Had he actually recognized me long ago? Feeling that the arm around my waist was about to leave, I grabbed his arm. I pleaded again, President Li. I'll just take up 2 minutes of your time. The female secretary beside him stared straight at my hand. My female intuition told me that her gaze was not very friendly. Sure enough, the female secretary said with a smile, President Li. President Fu of Shengsheng is still waiting for you. I quickly said, President Li. I can also wait for you. See when it's convenient for you. I won't take up too much of your time. Finally, Jason looked directly at me, with repressed emotions in his eyes that I couldn't understand. There seemed to be condemnation, anger, unwillingness, and resentment, as well as surging emotions. I was inexplicably panicked by his stare. But in the face of interests, I couldn't back down. I also stared straight at him, full of stubbornness and unwilling to back down. After a moment of anxiety, he sighed secretly again. Special Assistant Wang. Let this lady wait for me in the private lounge next to my office. Ah? Okay. For a split second, I sensed Special Assistant Wang's shock. Although I was also a bit shocked. At least I was sure of one thing. Then all I had to do was wait. Looking around, the environment in this lounge was quite nice. With fruits, drinks, and snacks available. Seeing the plump and red cherries on the coffee table, my heart tight and inexplicably. Those deliberately ignored past events, suddenly fermented and spread in this quiet environment. I let my mind go blank and waited quietly. Unconsciously. I actually fell asleep. When I woke up again, I was in a warm embrace, and a pair of rough big hands were covering my stomach, gently stroking it carefully. I woke up with a start. What are you doing? Don't be a hooligan. Haven't you been a hooligan to me enough? So he had recognized me long ago. What a scheming man. I sneered. Jason? President Lee? You have quite a few false identities. President Shu. The person in charge of Happy Homes supermarket. Vivian. The supermarket. Are not as full of tricks as you. I shook off Jason's arm that was supporting my waist. Did you do it on purpose? Intentionally raise the rent just to make me come to you? Yes. How shameless you are. If I hadn't done this, were you planning to keep avoiding me? Me. I really was planning to do that. Jason gently stroked my lower abdomen, his tone cold. You repeatedly said that I would see you as soon as I came out of the operating room. But where were you? Vivian. You deliberately left me while carrying my child. What? Were you planning to keep the baby but not the father? Yes. I nodded vigorously. That's exactly what I planned. This is my child. And it has nothing to do with you. How can it have nothing to do with me? This is also my child. What do you mean it's your child? You just made a little effort and contributed a sperm. What else have you done? I was full of indignation. Besides, didn't you enjoy the process of making the baby? It's me who will carry the baby for 10 months. It's me who is related to him by blood. And he will be my own flesh and blood in the future. This is my child. Don't be so eager to claim the baby. My attitude enraged Jason. His eyes, distorted with anger, didn't seem like eyes. And his nose didn't seem like a nose either. Chu. Yuan. Sui. Don't you think you've gone too far? All your kindness to me was just for having a baby? All those little acts of tenderness, those meticulous cares before, were all just for. I said calmly and inferently. Yes. From the very beginning to the end. All I wanted was a baby. You. I sighed and got back to the main topic. Mr. Lee, I'm here to talk to you about the rent issue this time. Not to have a personal emotional exchange. It's working hours. Your inability to distinguish between public and private matters makes me very distressed. Jason was almost angered into laughter by me. Fine. You want to talk about work, right? The group has cooperated with Happy Homes Supermarket for 5 years and has never increased the rent. But your business has been expanding continuously. And our property management costs have also increased accordingly. It's very reasonable to raise the rent. Moreover, Yihuanshi Supermarket has also taken a liking to that location and is willing to offer a higher property rent. Ms. Chu. We are all business people. There's no reason not to make money when there's an opportunity. It is a reason. But it's really irritating. I forced a smile and analyzed rationally. Mr. Lee, Yihuanshi's product quality control is not as good as ours. And their popularity can't compare with ours either. The amount of foot traffic they can bring is limited. There are also other Lee-owned stores in those commercial areas. Now, if you rashly let us move out because of the rent increase, it will also have an impact on your other businesses. Not necessarily. In Jason's eyes was the cold-hearted shrewdness unique to businessmen that was unfamiliar to me. Judging from the data from the business department, how do I feel that it is our Lee-owned stores that are helping your supermarket customers? Mr. Lee, the female secretary pushed the door open and entered. When she saw me, she subconsciously frowned, but still immediately raised a standard smiling face. Jason. Mr. Chen is here. I glanced at the female secretary. Why did he suddenly change the way of address? What was he trying to proclaim? But I had no relationship with Jason anyway. Mr. Lee, I know you are very busy. So I wonder what can be done to change your mind, and keep things as they are? Jason stared at me intently. Have dinner with me tonight. And I'll tell you then. After saying that, this guy left with the female secretary. He left. Looking at that cold back, I suddenly became furious. What the hell? I also lifted my feet and left. All roads lead to Rome. If this road doesn't work, I still have other ways. After careful consideration, I decided not to haggle with Jason over the rent issue. If the rent is really too high and affects the normal operation, then my supermarket will most likely consider relocating. Nowadays, online shopping malls are in full swing. I might as well turn it into an online shopping mall. Instead of renting a commercial area with a good location, it's better to directly rent a warehouse with convenient logistics. The more I thought about it, the more feasible it seemed. I directly started to work on the implementation plan for the online shopping mall. When I was busy, I lost track of time. It was not until my stomach growled that I remembered that I had been neglecting my baby. I gently touched my belly and said with a smile, "Baby, are you hungry? Mommy will take you to have something delicious." I simply tittied up and was about to go out. As soon as I opened the door, I was almost scared into doing a backflip. "What are you doing standing at my door? Who are you trying to scare at this late hour?" Jason didn't look well. His eyes were red, looking as pitiful as a big dog abandoned by its owner. "Vivian, do you really not want to see me that much? Didn't you analyze the pros and cons with me in a business-like manner? I've also thought it through. If it really doesn't work, we'll just move to another place. At worst, my supermarket will close. The money I've earned so far is enough for me to spend. And it's no problem at all to raise a child." Jason stared at me full of pain. "Vivian, do you have to be so ruthless? You clearly know that as long as you give in a little, I can give you anything. Why should I give in?" Setting aside the matter of the baby, I haven't done anything wrong in business. It was you who deliberately made things difficult for me. Jason sighed, and there was a tired compromise in his tone. "Vivian, let's stop arguing. Shall we make up?" I stared blankly at the dispirited man in front of me. Didn't they say that the president of the Lee family is vigorous and resolute? A ruthless person? Now he looked more like a big dog abandoned by its owner. I restrained my emotions and said calmly, "Jason, I am Mullen on marriage advocate. I admit that I took advantage of you to get a baby, but I also saved you. Let's just call it even. As for the supermarket rent issue, in business, I will still try my best to strive to keep things as they are. But if the Lee family still decides to increase it after consideration, then we will also accept it and seek another way out. It's getting late. You should go back." After saying that, I was about to close the door. Jason was quick-eyed and quick-handed. He pushed against the door and angrily accused, "Vivian, you are unfair to me. Why can you say it's even just like that?" "I don't agree. I'm telling you, we are not over yet." Jason left angrily, looking at that lonely back. I felt a bit of dull oppression in my chest. After all, he was my first man. After all, we were really happy during that time. But this happiness filled with concealment is not enough to make me trust a man, let alone support me to enter into marriage. I haven't seen any signs of happy marriage in any of the women in my family, but I have seen the basins and selfishness of every man. So I just want a child, not a man. My mother was beautiful and had been the object of everyone's pursuits, and she was a child. Unfortunately, when she was young, she was blinded by love and couldn't see clearly. She married my unreliable father. My father was sensitive and self-abased. He won my mother's heart with his doting. But after marriage, he began to take back the love he had given her. Even my mother's beauty became his hidden fear in his heart. He was afraid that he couldn't keep his beautiful mother, so he couldn't help suppressing her. At first, it was just verbal PUA until that day when my mother wore a beautiful red dress, and he finally couldn't help but lay his hands on her. My mother was the bravest and most free-spirited woman I had ever seen in this world. She knew well that domestic violence is either 0 times or countless times. Even if it meant going to court, she didn't hesitate to divorce my father. My mother took me away. But in the eyes of our relatives, she was an irresponsible person. My aunts and other female relatives often preached to her, for a couple. They quarrel at the head of the bed and make up at the foot of the bed. Is it necessary to divorce just for such a trifle? Exactly. Don't think that you can be self-willed just because you are young. Now that you are divorced, you are worthless. In the future, you can only find an old man to serve. Moreover, Vivian is still young. You are so headstrong to get divorced. You don't think about your child at all. All those who came to admonish my mother were women. But their marriages were not happy either. Grandma worked like a horse all her life to take care of Grandpa. But Grandpa never gave her a good look until he died. Even on his deathbed, he still couldn't forget his unrequited first love. My second aunt's husband had an affair. And the mistress, who was pregnant, came to the door. She could only grit her teeth and accompany the mistress to have an abortion. My eldest aunt's husband was a mama's boy. Although he didn't make any principal mistakes, he always disappeared in the mother-in-law-daughter-in-law relationship, allowing his wife and mother to quarrel every day over trifles, making the family restless. They themselves were unhappy and didn't have the courage to break free from the cage. But they blamed my mother, who didn't endure the pain. It was really absurd. My mother was also annoyed by these muddle-headed relatives. So she simply took me to high to work. My mother was beautiful and good at doing business. She took out her savings to rent a small supermarket, with good sources of goods and affordable prices. She won unanimous praise from the neighbors. Later, after making money, she opened a clothing store. My mother had a great sense of aesthetics and a discerning eye. And her income increased even more. Because my mother could earn money, I didn't suffer much in life. Instead, I was materially rich. She said that although I didn't have a father, she wanted me to be the happiest person in the world. When she had time, my mother would take me to travel, visit museums, and listen to concerts together. She would buy me beautiful little dresses, let me know how to appreciate myself, and learn to enjoy life. She showed me the world, let me taste delicious food, and distinguish the truth. She told me that women could also achieve a lot by relying on themselves. She and I were both mother and daughter, best friends, and confidants who could talk about everything. I found happiness and satisfaction in my relationship with my mother. She was the person I wanted to be. Unfortunately, good times are always short. 2 years ago, my mother passed away due to illness. Before leaving, she asked me to dress her up carefully. She wanted to say goodbye to this world gracefully and beautifully. On the eve of her departure, she held my hand and looked at me gently. She said that the luckiest thing in her life was having me. Because of my own experience, I think men are unreliable. But I really want to have a child, just like my mother. Preferably a girl. I can dress her up beautifully, take her to see all the scenery in this world, and enjoy the beauty of this world. At the same time, I can also have someone to care about and something to hold on to. Because she is my own child. A connection between me and this world. In a daze, I was awakened by a noisy cell phone ringtone. The little assistant said excitedly on the other end of the phone, "Sister Yun, the Lee Corporation has contacted us to sign a renewal contract." Why renew the contract when the price has increased? They said there will be no increase and it will remain the same as before. The little assistant's happy tone was a bit shrill. "Sister Yun, go quickly. They said you have to go and sign it in person." "Okay, I got it." I calmly hung up the phone and lay in bed for a while longer, thinking to myself, they still have a bit of conscience. This time, when I came to the Lee Corporation, it went smoothly. As soon as I arrived at the first floor lobby, I saw the glamorous female secretary beside Jason. "Miss Xu, right? Please follow me." The female secretary led me to the president-only elevator. In the confined space, the perfume on her made me a little uncomfortable. I heard that it was because Miss Xu helped Jason that you can keep the original terms in this cooperation. Miss Xu, You are so lucky. Jason has just taken power and should be making great efforts at this time. But he is distracted by such a trifle. It's really. However, he is, after all, a person who values friendship and loyalty. Even though his brother treated him so badly, he still showed some mercy in the end. I listened to the female secretary's incomprehensible and baffling words. But the female secretary seemed to gain some superiority from my confused look and continued to talk to herself. It was really not easy for Jason to reach his current position. Do you know about his past and experiences, Miss Xu? No. I replied sincerely. Although I don't know. What does it have to do with me? I looked at the secretary and said, I don't know why you are telling me this. But if I want to know, I will ask him myself. I seemed to be aroused by some inexplicable sense of competitiveness, and looked up at the secretary with a smile. I think he should be very happy to tell me in person about his past. The elevator arrived and I walked out first. Away from the source of the perfume. My nose felt much better. When I arrived at the conference room, Jason was already there. He calmly handed the contract to me. Have a look. I calmly flipped through it. And the more I read the content, the wider my eyes became. You've even reduced the price for us. Oh really? Why are you so kind? Maybe the joy on my face was too obsequious. As the corner of Jason's mouth twitched slightly. After all, you have to raise a child. As the father of the child, I can't let the mother of the child be too hardworking. I stroked my belly with a smile. I am the mother of the child and do need to raise the child. But please don't be so eager to be the father of the child. It will make me very embarrassed. But seeing that you've reduced the price for us, I'm still very happy. I thank you on behalf of my baby. Jason gritted his teeth and said, You're welcome. I read the contract over and over again twice before happily signing my name. What was originally thought to be an unexpected disaster suddenly took a favorable turn. Although the process was a bit inexplicable, the outcome was good after all. I obsequiously handed over the signed contract. Thank you, President Lee. Please give me more advice in the future. Jason took my hand. I don't dare to give advice. President Xu, please treat me to a meal. We've given so much in terms of profit. I didn't expect that I can't even get a meal from President Xu. Isn't this just what I've been longing for? Actually, I was just thinking about what to treat you to just now. Jason forced a smile. Then I really thank you. Jason took me to a restaurant that looked very expensive and high-end. Without even looking at the menu, he casually ordered a lot of dishes. I suspected that he wanted to fleece me. A delicious fish soup was served, and I couldn't sit still instantly. Jason quickly held me up. Are you feeling so uncomfortable? Waiter, quickly remove this dish. While gently patting my back. Jason was chagrined. I remember you liked the dishes in this restaurant very much before. And you liked this fish soup the most. I looked bewildered. When did I? Take out. Yes. My God. No wonder I thought the takeout ordered by Jason was so delicious. It turned out to be of this price level. I sighed. You are really a young master. I can't let the young mistress be wronged. Don't try to take advantage of me. Jason let out a long sigh. Vivian. I really like you sincerely. You are coerced by the grace of saving your life. It may not be love. Maybe it's gratitude. Jason stared at me intently. Vivian. As an almost 30-year-old adult, do you think I can't even distinguish between gratitude and affection? Yes. Jason was really exasperated by my shamelessness. He rubbed his glabella and said helplessly, Vivian, be fair to me. Okay? You can't barge into my heart so recklessly and then just leave whenever you want. Nor can you be completely disappointed in marriage because of your parents' failed marriage and directly sentence me to death. I slammed down my chopsticks and stared at him coldly. You investigated me. My future wife just disappeared like that. How could I not be worried? I didn't know what you looked like. And I didn't even know your full name. After the operation, you disappeared. I couldn't contact you. There was only an email and breakup fee. Do you know how angry I was? If I hadn't contacted the hospital to get the surveillance footage, I wouldn't even know what you really looked like. When I found out that you were raising your baby in Xiangdao, I couldn't wait to fly to you immediately. But there were various things in the company at home, and I really couldn't get away. Besides, I had a brother who was eyeing me to sly and wanted my life. I didn't dare to go to you rashly. I was afraid of getting you into trouble. But I really missed you. For 3 whole months. You didn't make a single call or send a single greeting. And you even said you wanted to break up and never see each other again in this life. Vivian. I'm also a man with a temper. And I also have my own pride. But for you, I'm really reluctant to let you go. That's why I used that method to force you to come back after the company affairs were settled. I never thought of making things difficult for you. If you were a little fairer to me, it would be no problem for me to give you those several buildings. I sipped the ham and matsutake soup and smacked my lips. My mother said that a man's sweet talk can't be trusted. She suffered a loss because of this. Jason. I never thought that the one who would hinder my love path was my mother-in-law. Are you changing your strategy now? From coercion to inducement? Vivian. Am I really so despicable in your heart? Not really. I wiped my mouth and said frankly, I just don't trust men. 15 that day. Jason, then I talked a lot. About my family and his original difficulties. I unilaterally thought that we hadn't made up. But he seemed to think that I had given him a chance. It didn't matter anyway. After all, he was still the party A for the time being. But men are really good at pushing their luck. I just agreed that he could accompany me for the prenatal checkup. And he automatically claimed the identity of the father of the child. He even shamelessly moved to the opposite door of my house. Vivian. I know you haven't accepted that the child has a father yet. But I have the right to visit the child and take care of the mother of the child, by the way. I thought he was sophistry. But I couldn't find a suitable reason to reject him. Jason has now changed his tactic again. He has changed from coercion and inducement to a protracted war, mainly using the sugar-coated bullet service at home. In the morning, noon and evening, he would let the restaurant prepare nutritious meals and send them to me. He remembered all kinds of pregnancy taboos and precautions when being hungry better than I did. He was busy reminding me 2 days before the prenatal checkup. And from time to time he would come to my house and ask to give me a massage. I suspected that he had ulterior motives. But I was really having a hard time during pregnancy. And his massage was also very comfortable for me. One day, we got a bit carried away during the massage. Afterwards, he hugged me and took out a diamond ring as big as a pigeon egg to propose. Looking at such a big diamond ring, I suddenly seemed to be able to empathize with Wang Jia's Chi. Can I reject your proposal but accept this ring? Do you hear what you are saying? Forget it then. It's just a diamond ring. It's not like I can't afford it. Jason had been worn down by me to the point of having no temper. He pinched my finger and put the ring on it. Here is the ring for you. It's okay if you don't say yes. I'll propose again some time later. Will you still give such a big diamond ring when you propose again? Although I'm rich, I also like this kind of sparkly stuff very much. Jason was almost at his wit's end. If the diamond is bigger than this one, will you say yes? I was very honest and said, well, not necessarily. Jason let out a long sigh. Forget it. Let's go to sleep. It's my bad luck to fall in love with such a heartless woman like you. I pursed my lips and lay in Jason's arms. I really have no confidence in marriage. Don't you have confidence in me either? I was silent. Because I don't know. People change. I've seen how my father held my mother in the palm of his hand. And I've also seen how he laid hands on her. Moreover, I've witnessed too many real-life cases where women are hurt in the name of love. It's already difficult for women in a family. I can live a very good life on my own without depending on men. Why must I get married? I pretended to be relaxed and said, don't be so anxious. Do you know that there is a very popular new type marriage relationship nowadays? That is, having a child together without getting a marriage certificate. I think it's very good. Ah? Just have a baby without getting a marriage certificate. The child can be registered in either the man's or the woman's household. And even without a marriage certificate, both parties should fulfill their obligations of raising the child. If one day we pass away, the child can inherit the legacies from both sides. Most importantly, if you use violence against me, it's injury, not domestic violence, and I can claim compensation. And if you get into trouble, it won't affect the child's political review, and he can still take the civil service exam. Isn't it great? Then, I clearly saw Jason's face turn darker. How could I use violence against you? And what kind of trouble could I get into? How should I know? I yawned widely. Who can guarantee the future? And think about it. If we get married, your family will definitely want the child to have your surname. How troublesome that would be. Should the child be surnamed Lee or Pei? It's better for me. My surname is Xu. Without any dispute. I also have my mother's surname. So I don't care whose surname the child will have. Then it's settled. The child will have my surname. His pet name is Xu Fu Blessing. And we are still thinking about his formal name. Little Xu Fu. That's also very nice. Jason held me in his arms more tightly. Vivian. I know you don't feel secure about marriage. I won't force you or push you. I will show you with my actions that I'm a person worthy of your trust. I nestled in Jason's arms, quietly closed my eyes and didn't speak anymore. Only the corners of my mouth curled up unconsciously. 16. 4 years later. Today is the day for little Xu Fu to start kindergarten. It's also the day to take the entrance to kindergarten photo. I hoped wholeheartedly to have a girl. But it turned out to be a little boy. I was a little disappointed. But Jason was very happy. He held the baby and held my hand beside the hospital bed, crying uncontrollably. But in fact, Jason and I still haven't got a marriage certificate. Although we haven't got a marriage certificate, he hasn't been absent from anything that a husband and a father should do. Jason rushed over in a hurry and straight and his tight casually. I looked at someone who was specially dressed up in a suit and tie and found it a little funny. You are dressed too formally. I didn't have a chance to take wedding photos. Now I have a chance to take a family photo. So of course I should perform well. And this is my son's entrance to kindergarten photo. I can't let him lose face. Where did this sense of competitiveness come from? Daddy. Xu Fu stretched out his little hands, asking for a hug. Jason hugged the child and kissed him, and then whispered in little Xu Fu's ear. What are you two whispering about? Daddy asked me to ask Mommy when you were getting married. Me. This guy has changed his strategy again. Now he starts to turn our little comrade to his side. It's a pity that the little comrade is too unsteady. He was foolishly bribed by the enemy with just one lollipop. Little Xu Fu licked the lollipop happily and said with a big smile. Daddy said that all the children in the kindergarten have a mommy and a daddy. I laughed and said, you also have a mommy and a daddy. Little Xu Fu was stunned for 3 seconds. Yes. Jason was speechless. The little guy he turned to his side obviously didn't have enough fighting power. Jason helplessly held the child tightly and held my hand again. The revolution has not yet succeeded. Comrade Pei. Keep working hard. Jason held little Xu Fu. Baby. Do you want to ride on Daddy's shoulders? Yes. Jason let Xu Fu sit on his neck and carefully held him. Fly. I looked at the harmonious father-son pair. And the tightly strung nerve in my heart had actually loose and long ago. Should I get married or not? Honey. Come here. I smiled at them. Forget it. Let's talk about it later.